Yo, 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 back at it again with stage green integration. We're going to be starting out like usual with a few clips. Share computer sound. I just found these. I always end up putting these together last minute. So I was doing this like 20 minutes ago, but I found a couple clips that are like perfect stage green. This one is like, it couldn't get better than this, man. Let me know if you can hear it.
I am not black. I mean, that's what the world calls me, but it's not me. I didn't come out of my mother's womb saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm black." No, I was taught to be black, and you were taught to call me that, along with whatever you call yourself. It's just a label. See, from birth, the world force feeds us these labels, and eventually we all swallow them. We digest and accept the labels, never ever doubting them. But there's one problem. Labels are not you, and labels are not me. Labels are just labels. But who we truly are is not skin deep. See, when I drive my car, no one would ever confuse the car for me. Well, when I drive my body, why do you confuse me for my body? It's my body. Get it? Not me. Let me break it down. See, our bodies are just cars that we operate and drive around. The dealership we call society decided to label mine the black edition, yours the Irish or white edition. And with no money down, 0% APR, and no test drive, we were forced to own these cars for the rest of our lives. Forgive me, but I fail to see the logic or pride in defining myself or judging another by the cars we drive. Because who we truly are is found inside. Listen, I'm not here to tell you how science has concluded that genetically we're all mixed and race in the human species doesn't exist, or how every historian knows that race was invented in the 15th century to divide people from each other and it has worked perfectly. No, I'm not here to lecture. I just want to ask one question. Who would you be if the world never gave you a label? Never gave you a box to check? Would you be white, black, Mexican, Asian, Native American, Middle Eastern, Indian? No, we would be one. We would be together. No longer living in the era of calling human beings black people or white people. These labels that will forever blind us from seeing a person for who they are, but instead seeing them through the judgmental, prejudicial, artificial filters of who we think they are. And when you let an artificial label define yourself, then my friend, you have chosen smallness over greatness and minimized yourself, confined and divided yourself from others. And it is an undeniable fact that where there is division, there will be conflict, and conflict starts wars. Therefore, every war has started over labels. It's always us versus them. So the answer to war, racism, sexism, and every other ism is so simple that every politician has missed it. It's the labels. We must rip them off. Isn't it funny how no baby is born racist, yet every baby cries when they hear the cries of another, no matter the gender, culture, or color, proving that deep down we were meant to connect and care for each other. That is our mission, and that is not my opinion. That is the truth in a world that has sold us fiction. Please listen, labels only distort our vision, which is why half of those watching this will dismiss it or feel resistance and conflicted. But just remember, so did the caterpillar before it broke through its shell and became the magnificent butterfly. Well, these labels are our shells, and we must do the same thing so we can finally spread our wings. Human beings were not meant to be slapped with labels like groceries and supermarkets. DNA cannot be regulated by the FDA. We were meant to be free, and only until we remove them all and stop living and thinking so small will we be free to see ourselves and each other for who we truly are.
That's a really good representation.
So what?
I don't think there's a better video depicting stage green than this one.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's literally like the core of stage green. And he was even talking about like this is more expensive than stage orange. It's more expensive than he was like kind of referring to some blue and stage orange stuff, and it's more expansive. It's more, you're going to be resistant to growing to this stage of consciousness is what he was mentioning. So that was a good one. Another one, there's actually a couple of really good examples that I like of YouTubers that I used to watch that were very stage green, and then you can see them with their videos literally shifting from orange to green, like or sorry, I used to watch them, they used to be very stage orange, but you can see their values shifting in real time. It's so cool. This is one of them. I guess open like 5 tabs. All right. Do you know Nathaniel Drew? He's pretty popular on YouTube.
No, not really.
One of the most important things you need to do when you're learning a new language is to speak to people. It's how you become fluent. But
give me a second. It's trying. Very hard. All right. Okay, I thought it was supposed to start somewhere here, so I'll just skip forward. There it is. Boom. It's around here. All right, so he's basically in his video, he's depicting his transformation from stage orange to stage green values.
Which is this sort of promise that you'll be happier and more fulfilled if you accomplish more things. And it just doesn't work that way. I certainly thought it would fill that hole that I felt kind of eating away at me. And it never did. I've definitely struggled with balancing the act that is being productive, putting things out there, accomplishing things, and not getting carried away with it, because it's a drug. It feels amazing to cross something off.
Wait, it's saying sharing is paused. Can you see it?
No, I can't.
All right, interesting. Let me try it again. Oh, I know why. It was sharing a different screen. Yeah, I got it. So boom. Now you should be able to see it, right?
Yeah, now
a to-do list.
Sweet.
To shelf a project and tackle the next one. The thing is, this feeling, this drug, can in and of itself become a major distraction. It can be something that we end up focusing on so much more than what's really going on underneath, which we'd maybe rather not look at, right? Things like how we really feel about ourselves. I'm saying that as somebody who hasn't always realized how addicted I am to that drug. For periods of my life, this came at the sacrifice of a social life, of a romantic life. And this is what my piece, Why You Never Have Enough Time, was all about. An exploration of the idea that there will always be more that you can do, more productive that you can be. At some level, productivity, the idea of doing things, contributing to the world and your community, that's just a part of life. If you want to be a photographer, you have to go out and take photos. There's just no way around it. If you want to be a writer, you have to sit down and write. I think this is more so a warning of the dangers of letting these things define you, because it's all just ego. I used to think of productivity as a fixed idea, which, it may seem silly, but I think this is a fallacy a lot of us fall for. We think it's a destination we can get to, but really productivity exists on a spectrum of more and less productive. It's all relative. And the important thing is to not get lost on this. We all have to figure out for ourselves how much is enough, because productivity isn't a replacement for intangible things like friendship or time to wonder about life.
Oh my God, this is my favorite animal. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. Wow, they're beautiful.
Oh my God, I have a thing for mountain goats.
Look at that thing.
Sometimes people refer to me as a productivity YouTuber, which is honestly something that makes me feel sick to my stomach. That is not why I'm here. That is absolutely not what I'm trying to promote. If that's what you see, I fear you might be missing the point of what I'm really trying to do here. I'm mainly here to share my joy for life, my adventures as a human. That's it.
We're about to start again. It's crazy out here. This is the most dangerous road I've ever been on. And I think I'm about to die. And Lena's not moving in the background.
Yeah.
Bounce too! God damn it, I'm filming! That's so crazy.
I absolutely want to get more out of life, but not in an optimized, calculated, ones and zeros sort of way. There is nothing productive about my entire existence because in a billion different scenarios of how my life pans out, I always end up as a pile of dust. An alternative.
Let's see.
I said in an old video of mine that I define success as feeling like I'm progressing towards my goals. And looking back on that, I think it's representative of where I was at in life. I think I'd like to update my definition.
Stage orange.
I think success for me is going through life with an open heart.
Stage green.
That's when I think about the life that I want to lead. That is exactly what comes to mind.
So adorable.
I feel like I've made a lot of progress, if you will, on my fears, on my own self-image, but not through trying to fix myself. It came through just living life, through experimenting with different things, doing things that make me feel uncomfortable.
No, dude, you're making me nervous.
I'm here to catch you. You're good. Down to that one down there. You're good. You're good. Yeah, you can hold here. Yes. There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Boom. You did it.
Oh, man. I don't know what happens. Like, I just, like, kind of shut down. Like, did you see? I was, like, acting like an 80-year-old man.
What really is a productive use of your life? Shouldn't that be the real question? I mean, a deep, meaningful conversation with my mom has immense value to me, but it means absolutely nothing to shareholders on Wall Street. YouTube analytics or Instagram insights doesn't measure that at all. But that could be what I need to shift perspective on something, to spark a new idea that changes the rest of my life. To me, that's extremely productive, right? And it contributes to this search for mental clarity that I'm on, this pursuit to kind of squeeze the juice out of life, as I say. I want to live a rich life, but not in terms of money and possessions, but rather experiences and relationships. An alternative to a life in pursuit of productivity and output is one led primarily by curiosity. I think it's choosing not to define yourself with titles and accomplishments and what your morning routine looks like. I know it's tempting. I've done the same thing, but I think there's something more valuable hidden underneath. It's your intrinsic value as a little piece of the universe.
Sweet. So that I actually only watched like a couple minutes and I was like, well, we'll just see what the rest of it is. And the rest is actually really good too. It was like to a T, man. It was like, I used to be in stage orange. It wasn't fulfilling. Now I'm more expensive and I'm in stage green. One thing I noticed too, because like I'm kind of contemplating what stage green is just as much as you are.
Yeah.
Just as much as anyone taking this courses. And like, I don't feel like I have mastered stage green, but I'm like, well, what really is stage green? And what I kind of just realized watching those videos and recording the content is like, how it's framed is that both stage orange and stage green are world centric, which means both of them see the value. Like stage blue is like us versus them. So that's where you get like racism, sexism, all this stuff. Once you get to stage orange, one's able to see the value of every single human being. But the difference I've noticed between stage orange and stage green is orange says that every human being has value. It's based on it's not, or it says every human has value independent of their race, sex, gender, whatever, like race, sex, religion, politics. But orange says your value is based on what you achieve and it's based on what you do. It's based on basically things that you do. And whereas green is like, no, there's inherent value in every single human just for the fact that you're human. I think that's the shift, and that's what you kind of notice in some of those videos as well.
So I've been contemplating recent few days. I was in a shared taxi, and like a very religious guy was sitting next to me, talking to another guy about life, business, and different stuff. And he was obviously, like very obviously, a blue guy, a very blue guy, a Muslim traditional guy. But like the way he was talking about stuff, it seemed to me like that was the exact same thing as I talk to my friends. So I realized that like a blue stage is a collectivist stage, the same as green and turquoise.
Right.
So I don't know, like I'm just speculating, but I think like what the blue sees, it's the same as what green sees. But what's different is the filter, the program. So it's like blue sees the same thing as the green, but the blue filters it through their own programs, which are religion, dogma, ideology, etc., etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right.
So, like, I found a quote for someone who was saying, if everyone had to think outside the box, maybe it was the box. Just a second. Sorry.
Maybe it was the blue box, the orange box.
If everyone had to think outside the box, maybe it was the box that needed fixing. So maybe like we shift it through working on our filters and programs, and that what changes our stage development. So maybe like I've come to this realization that a green is the same as a blue, but the green is more inclusive and more holistic.
Right.
But like the way that guy was talking, like he was talking about praying, meditation, business, and God, and different stuff. But he was translating them through religion. But like the same exact concepts I talk about to my friends, but I translate them through spirituality or just maybe rationalism or whatever. And the same with like the individualistic stages, like orange and yellow and red. Like you evolve in rationality. Each form is more. Like orange is a more evolved form of rationality than red, and yellow is a more evolved form of rationality than orange, and it's more inclusive of people. And also because I'm starting to see life in kind of a dualistic way. So in a sense, I think like if you want to go collective, then go individual. So like maybe
say it again. If you want to do what, go and do.
If you want to go collective, like to serve the collective, serve the individual, serve yourself. Because serving the individual needs, it's what serves the collective. And serving the collective is what serves the individual. So it's like a counterintuitive approach. Also, one last thing, like on exiting, entering phase of each stage, there is that guarding up happens when you enter any stage, like in the beginning of the stage, orange or green or yellow. Usually people start to guard up and reject the previous stage. And I was thinking that this is necessary because it's like, you know, when a plant just starts to come out of a seed, it's just really easy to grab it out of the ground because it's not grounded enough.
Right.
So you need to guard up and protect yourself until you become really grounded into the stage. Then you can open up to people and put guards down.
How this comes up for me, I think you said this in the last call too, and I was contemplating it a bit. I was like, that's actually a really good point. And how it comes up for me is, I think this just shows how hard it is to have healthy integration, right? Because to have healthy integration is not to judge the lower stage, but to continue moving up. And so it's so hard to do that though. It's so much easier to just, rather than transcend and include, you transcend and repress. That's unhealthy. That's shadow. And so it's like, what it just makes me think of like, all right, when you're going, the reason you're developing to the next stage is because you see the limitations of the previous stage. So it's so hard to be able to see the limitations, but also to see that there is truth as well, and to include that truth, but drop the limitations. Whereas if you see the limitations, but it's so much easier to just say there's limitations, but no truth. And I'm not going to include what's true. And I'm just going to take the limitations and take that as the entire stage and just trash it. And I've noticed I've done this with stage orange. I've done this with stage green. I feel like in my life, I've done this with every single stage to varying degrees. When I was going into stage orange, I was in the big atheist group, you know, where you just trash stage blue. You don't see the value of stage blue. When I was going into stage green, I would just trash consumerism. I would trash the rat race. I would trash all that. Then when I started developing cognitively, I'm going to say I've been noticing, I don't think I've emotionally, spiritually, I like all these different lines of development. I don't think they're at stage yellow, but I think my mind, the cognitive component, is pushing into stage yellow. And at the same time, I'll just trash stage green, and I'll just trash stage. Like I've been in like couple stage green, like spiritual communities. And while I've been traveling, and I was like, there's so much, I was getting triggered so much. I'm like, why am I getting triggered? And I'm like, oh, I'm like completely repressing the value of the stage. And there's a couple things I wanted to bring up too that were really good, which is like, there's something you said at the beginning. What did you say at the beginning there?
What did I say, or you?
Yeah, what did you say when you just started speaking last time?
Yeah, I was talking about how similar are the collective stages to each other, and what's different is only the filters.
Right. That's what it was. And so I wanted to bring in a couple of points by Ken Wilber, because I think this is like, we're learning spiral dynamics, which is like one stage of consciousness. What Ken Wilber does is he says there's like, he increases the complexity of understanding the stages, but then he also brings in other aspects. And I think there's a couple of clarifications from what I've learned that may help you understand. Speaking with that stage blue person who was into non-duality but was framing it through religion. Basically, the idea is that religion isn't solely a stage blue. So there's fundamentalist religion, which is a very stage blue way of going about religion. But there's also stage orange religion, stage green religion, stage yellow religion, stage turquoise religion, right? Religion itself is not confined to any one stage. I think the number that was thrown out was 75% of all religious people are at stage blue, but so we kind of take stage blue as religious, but there's definitely stage orange religious and stage green religious, etc. And either he was at stage blue or he was at a higher stage, but also religious. And then another thing is that there's two more points I wanted to bring up. One, there's when I was reading Ken Wilber's book, I basically can sum it up into like one sentence. I read this like massive book and using all this mumbo jumbo, all this jargon, all of these like very complicated words. And the core of the book is that structures of consciousness are different from states of consciousness, and whatever structure equals stages. What we're talking about in this course, stages, is different from states. So what he was talking about is, although it's unlikely at lower stages, you can be in a non-dual perspective at any stage of development.
Right.
You can experience, like, non-duality is not confined to stage turquoise or anything.
That's true. Actually, I've met a blue person who had a mystical experience and an NDE experience, and he translated that he saw Jesus Christ.
Right. Dude, literally, that's the exact point. You can have mystical experiences at any stage, but the stage, or at any stage. So there's a spectrum of states of consciousness just as much as there's a spectrum of stages. And whatever stage you're at is how you will view that mystical experience. It is the lens through which you will look at that experience.
Right, yeah.
And so that's exactly what it is. If someone's at stage blue, it's like, I saw Jesus. Jesus came and he rescued me. If someone's like from, I don't know, like Islam or something, I spoke with Muhammad. I spoke with him. I literally met him. Or like, I met the spirit. I saw the spirit in front of me. If someone's at stage orange, they'll say something like, I just merged with the universe. I was becoming the universe. I was becoming like whatever scientific terms they use, they'll use those to understand the mystical state. Stage green, I merged with love. I was just light in love. And then it just on and on and on. And so I think that's a very important distinction. And I think that's how we understand. I wanted to riff on the collective thing too, because it almost feels,
that's really strange.
Go ahead.
Because I was also I have come across this idea and I was contemplating it, but I was thinking about like the idea of believing in one religion or ideology or one system above all others. Can you still hear me?
It cut out. You're back now though. All I heard was the idea of one religion and then it cut out.
Okay, sorry. So the idea of believing in one religion above all others or ideology, I believe that this kind of action creates a pattern of separation between you and the rest of the world. So I can't really make sense of this. Like, how could you be a turquoise person and you believe in one religion at the same time? Because maybe turquoise or beyond turquoise, it's a unity stage of consciousness, and you're holding a belief that causes separation between you and the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I think that maybe like all these beliefs can be crippling and preventing you from ascending to a unity consciousness. And I don't know, like I think maybe it doesn't work until you just resolve all these patterns.
No, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
they become like energetic blockages in your field.
Right. I think that's how it comes up for me, is preference versus exclusion. So what I mean by that is a stage blue approach to religion would be my religion is right and yours is wrong. A stage turquoise approach would be I prefer to approach spiritual practice through this certain religion, but every other religion is just as valuable and doesn't have any less value. So although I'm religious, I think it's this confusion of religious doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. Religious just means I'm practicing a certain set of practices. And some people at stage blue will approach religion as us versus them. Other stages will approach religion as this is what I practice, but because this is what I prefer, but other religion doesn't mean other religions are less valuable. They all have the same amount of value.
Right. But and also like, sorry, keep going.
There was one of the, there was something that was coming up. I wanted to riff on when you spoke about the collective being viewed similarly in blue and green. It's almost like, I wonder if how stage blue views, if someone is at stage blue, how they view someone else within their religion or within their group. It's almost like that's the same way that green views other people, but then green expands it out to every single human, whereas blue doesn't. But when a blue is interacting with another person at blue, I wonder if it's like the same energetic feeling as when green's interacting with anyone in the world, right?
Also, like I heard once Jordan Peterson was talking about this idea of how each religion has a traditional and a mystical path.
Right.
So like I have found people, Islamist, Muslim people, who are in turquoise or yellow, but these are Sufis, like people who take the mystical path of Islam. But I never found evolved form of traditional Islam. So like usually the more spiritually evolved forms of religions are the mystical paths, like the Kabbalah in Judaism, Sufism in Islam. I'm not sure what's the mystical path in Christianity, but yeah, etc., etc.
Not Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It almost seems like it's like different ways of approaching the religion, right? And so if someone's approaching it through Sufism or Gnosticism or Kabbalah or whatever it is, Judaism, that's almost like guaranteeing that it has to be beyond stage blue. But there's something very interesting. It's like I've heard a couple stories of some Zen monks, some Zen Buddhist teachers who were apparently extremely grounded in non-duality, like based on I can't prove if they were or not, but from what I understand is that they had a very deep understanding of the nature of reality. But yet they would still say stuff like they would still be sexist and racist. And so it's like, right. Yeah. So it's like perhaps they were grounded in unity consciousness, but it wasn't. And so this is very interesting. And this is basically the core thesis of what inspired me to create this course and Wilbur's work. So I studied Wilbur's work for a few months. Like this book was massive and it took me like 2 or 3 months to actually read the whole thing. But basically what he says is religion needs to become more inclusive, right? We can't tell people that religion is bad. Religion is just a vehicle. So we can use religion to steward people into these higher stages, because most people, if they grew up in a religious context, it's going to be harder for them to get out of the religious context entirely than it is for them to just take the religious context and upgrade it into a higher understanding and more inclusive understanding of the world. So basically what he said is that he gave this example of the Zen monk, and he's like, what is the concept of enlightenment or awakening? He said, all right, there's the state of consciousness, the non-dual state, but he's like, a full awakening, he was saying, is not just being in a non-dual state. He was saying that full enlightenment is actually merging the non-dual state with a turquoise understanding of the world. So he was saying, if you're in a non-dual state, but then you're still a racist, you're actually not including all of reality. Your state of you merge with your experience, and you kind of you're whatever a non-dual state is, like completely how you perceive the world is completely non-dual. But when you go back to the relative, you're actually taking the relative and then you're not actually integrating it fully, because you're still pushing out certain people. And so he was basically saying the enlightenment of the 21st century is that of full integration of up to stage turquoise, and then full integration of non-dual. Was very interesting, as well as he basically said once you get to turquoise, the states merge with the stages. So like they're different. Whatever stage at is what you would interpret your mystical experiences as, until you get to stage turquoise, and then they like merge. And then basically turquoise is almost like a state of consciousness just as much as it is a stage. And so where were we going with this? Back to stage green.
It's basically like how you can be spiritually developed while you're still cognitively at a blue or a red or something. But I also heard this story about Buddha, like after he went back from his long period of alienation. Like when he started spreading his teachings, his teachings were only exclusive to men. And his disciples started convincing him to include women. So it took Buddha some time to include women into his teachings as disciples. So yeah, that's completely right. Like you can get into enlightenment and then duality while you're still cognitively very biased and underdeveloped.
Right. Exactly. It's so interesting. Exactly. This is good. I'm gonna actually go through some of the core aspects of stage green. I'm going to talk about stage green a bit.
Yeah.
And then to kind of to do a little bit more deeper integration on stage green.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to talk about, this will provoke some conversation as well. What is the pushback against stage orange? Why is some, and we kind of saw this in the videos, especially the one with Nathaniel Drew talking about his shift from orange to green, but I want to go deeper into that. So green is pushing back against the fast-paced material world of orange. Stage green is slowly recognizing that material wealth alone is not sufficient to live a satisfying life. So starts realizing that not everything can be explained with reason. And this is very interesting because this is, I think, where we get the new age communities. It's very, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sweet. I think this is where we get, I've been finding it very challenging to separate new age spirituality with mysticism, because a lot of times new age spirituality will literally use the exact same words as mysticism, but it's not coming from the place of mysticism. It's coming from the place of stage green, right? And so I guess how I understand this is that when stage green transcends stage orange, they see, oh, not everything can be solved with reason. So therefore they're open to spirituality and mysticism and love and emotions and all the immaterial stuff. But then separating that from, and I guess you could actually have a non-dual state at stage green as well. So it's very interesting, but I'm finding that it's a lot more complicated than I first thought to actually see what real spirituality is, and what like just spirituality that is saying mystical stuff, but without the actual experience of having any sort of embodied experience of that. So that's one aspect. I'm kind of getting on a tangent. I'll go back to it. They realize at stage green, there's not only a need for achieved tangible wealth, but also a need for emotional well-being. This is one of the core shifts. When one realizes that we can't solve all the world's problems with more money, economic growth, and everything happening on Wall Street, one now realizes that stage orange is unsustainable. We need to think about ecology. Green emerges when materialism and success fail to feed the human spirit. We used to think that money and success could make us actualize human beings, but now we are noticing that there is still a hole inside of us. Literally, Nathaniel Drew in that video talked about this exact thing. He's like, I have this void. No matter how much success and money I get, there was still this void. There's this emotional void. I'm not fulfilling the human spirit is kind of what he was getting at. And so then but then this is the interesting thing. What their answer is, this is what I've been noticing. Their answer is more inclusive than orange, but not as inclusive as it could be. They say the answer is we need to be chasing connections and relationships. And although this is more inclusive, I think one of the blind spots of stage green is they take this as the end all be all. Connections and relationships, that's the end all be all. Whereas in reality, it's like, it's more expensive than orange, but you can actually get more expensive than that as well. What moves orange into green is sometimes a health crisis, because orange is living in such a toxic way that many health issues started to come out. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Sweet. And this is what we were talking about at the beginning, with your detox, with your detox from caffeine and sugar and nicotine, all these substances, alcohol, all this stuff. This is what I've been noticing is stage orange isn't deeply, they see success as the end all be all. And what that also means is that they also see the health of the human body as not the end all be all. And so it's like, if I'm successful, it doesn't matter how much junk food and shit I'm putting into my body, as long as I'm successful. Whereas, and one source that I was researching, I can't remember exactly which source said this, but they said that one of the reasons that people move from stage orange to stage green is they start having stress related diseases. They start feeling lonely. So they start having anxiety. They start having depression. They're like, oh, maybe the success thing isn't actually the solution to my depression, my anxiety, my loneliness, my stress. Like there's something deeper here. And no matter I'm making millions of dollars, but I'm stressed and I'm suffering just as much as I was before. So this is why I think that once this get too big, once it's like I can't not see the massive amounts of stress, it's like I'm like forced to expand into stage green at that point. So one's view of the world expands. Orange will only view the world as a marketplace, as making money and exploiting the world, whereas green views the world as a community where we all need to collectively take care of each other and the planet. The shift is that at stage orange, life was all about things. At stage green, life is all about people. It's about deep human bonds. Now green is starting to realize that people should cooperate rather than compete with each other. Life is about more than just egoic success, but the success of the whole community. But now the sense of community has expanded beyond blue. There's the recognition of the larger global community. Now it all starts to notice the inequality and the repression of the world that is caused by blue and orange. The community of green is the entire world, regardless of country, gender, race, whereas blue was promoting the civilization in the sense of their civilization, in the sense of the civilization that they wanted to create, rather than the actual world and civilization that is happening in front of their eyes. And so to finish it off, actually, I'll share my screen just to show you what I'm reading off of. So I just had some points on why are they acting like this? This is why they're acting. This is why they are pushing back against stage orange. What they're like, I think this is actually really valuable. Like, this is why they're transcending. Yeah. Once these get so powerful, there's a need to transcend. And so then what does healthy green look like? Healthy green is to have real human connections, to emotion, to be in the world of emotions, of empathy, of giving attention to everyone, giving everyone the space to be heard, accepting every person completely in their individuality, despite whatever stage orange achievement or successes they may or may not have. And this is what was talked about in the Nathaniel Drew video as well, is like a journey of discovery. Stage orange is like, I need to reach these goals. Stage green is like, I just want to discover stuff. I just want to live in a state of curiosity. I think that's a very healthy aspect of stage green, be connected with nature. The core like motto of stage green is, I feel my emotions, therefore I am alive. Everyone is equal. I'm grounded in my love and heart and soul, and empathy and intimacy, kindness, compassion, mercy, equality, harmony, human well-being. And so I think these are some of the healthy aspects of stage green, but also these things can be co-opted in unhealthy ways. So just because someone is saying that they are promoting love doesn't mean that is an inclusive love. It could just be a word. These are just words, you know. So I've spoken with some people. I spoke with this person here in Mexico who was saying love, promoting love. And yet, as I was speaking with them, they were unable to understand the position of a stage orange person, and they were completely putting and repressing the value of these stage orange things. So that the example was, this person was talking about protesting, all about how all her friends were protesting for the forest. They want the greedy capitalists and the police wanted to cut down the forest. And I was like, and I was asking her questions. I was like, do you see the humanity in these CEOs? Do you see the humanity in these police officers? Basically, she was like, no, I don't. They're not human. And I'm like, and that's when I realized like that is what is healthy green? It's when we see the humanity, when we truly see the humanity of everyone, not just the person at stage green. And I think this is like the core basis of stage green, of between healthy and unhealthy, of what I've realized. Unhealthy green is everyone. I have love and compassion and heart and soul, and I love everyone in the world. Everyone has value for their humanness, for their because they're a human being. But then they say, unless you're cutting down the forest, then you don't have.
I guess cancel culture is an invention of a green stage.
Say that again.
I guess cancel culture is an invention of a green stage.
Kant's adventure? Okay.
Cancel culture.
Kant's adventure, what's that?
Cancel culture. Can you hear me well?
Do you want to put it in the chat? I'm having a really hard time understanding what you're saying. Can't like Immanuel Kant is what I'm hearing. Like the
No, no, I mean cancel culture. Cancel.
Cancel adventure. Cancel. Oh, yeah. I got you. Cancel culture.
Yeah, so I guess it's an invention of the green stage.
Right.
I was thinking about this also today.
It's completely unhealthy stage green. As far as I see it, cancel culture and being politically correct is literally the epitome of unhealthy stage green. Because what is cancel culture? It's saying I have these values of equality for all, and I am going to cancel you. I am going to. It's the hypocrisy is unreal. It's so hypocritical. It's like everyone has value, but we're gonna cancel you if you don't see that. And so it's like, don't you realize that if you cancel them, you're saying that they don't have value? Like the hypocrisy there. So that's like the core shadow of stage green. And it's so funny. It's so funny. It's so obvious to me now. And it's so obvious to me now that when I speak with some people, I just speak as if they understand that. But I realize not very many, not saying that it's rare to find that, but you can definitely find there's a lot of people that understand this. And it's very, very interesting, because you want to know what's even more interesting. A lot of people see this. A lot of people see the hypocrisy in cancel culture, but the amount of people that are approaching it from stage yellow, there's a lot of people at stage blue and stage orange that see the hypocrisy of cancel culture and they use it as a justification for stage blue or stage orange. It's like, all right, there's a deep judgment, there's a deep shadow of cancel culture and political correctness, but are you approaching it? Because I've met a lot of Trump supporters. I met a lot of people that were hardcore into Donald Trump, and they understood what we're talking about right now. They understood the hypocrisy of cancel culture, and they're like, therefore Donald Trump. And it's like no. Cancel culture is very hypocritical. There's something more expansive than that, though. You don't have to use that as a justification for blue or orange. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. What's coming up?
I don't really have much to share, so I'm gonna go with listening.
Yeah. And no, this is something that has been sitting with me. I think this is what I want to talk about. And actually, I wrote down a couple questions to think about. We can do journaling, but maybe it would I think honestly it would be cool I want to try out something different. I want to try just taking the questions and then just riffing on them, just speaking on them, maybe giving like 30 seconds to kind of sit with it and then to sit with them. So my two questions are, where am I not taking into account the emotional component of life? Where am I not valuing others for their innate humanness, but rather putting them lower or higher based on success? Like not even just stage blue, but even stage orange. Where am I still understanding people based on either where am I falling into this trap that we're talking about of everyone is equal, but your belief is bullshit and therefore you're lower than me, or where am I approaching things from stage orange? Where am I still seeing that I'm valuing other people based on their work, based on what they're putting out into the world, based on things other than just their inherent humanity? So that's what I came up with as a question.
Can you just share the screen for the question?
Yeah. Actually, I'll just put them in the chat. I think it'll be easier. That's the first one.
But yeah, also this came up to me now, that maybe moving out of green has a lot to do with the dropping fear. Like like getting out of fear.
Mm,
Because
that's
I
good.
feel like the whole tier one has so much to do with being fearful of
Right,
so
right.
many things.
I want to actually share something that's actually going to help a lot with this. This is going to be in the stage yellow section, which I pretty much finished yesterday, so I'll be releasing it. But there's the first tier versus second tier. And so understanding healthy green and what moving out of stage green is, this will help.
Yeah.
First tier, based on getting, it's based on fear. It's based on what you just talked about. So what are different aspects of fear? Getting, taking, deficient motivations, competition. So it's based on like survival. I think this is the core aspect of where perhaps green is unable to be expansive and to actually see the value of other perspectives is, let me find it. That didn't include, maybe not. Anyway, the core aspect is survival. Stage green is still afraid that first tier is still afraid that it won't survive. I noticed this is coming up really big for me right now. I feel myself wanting to regress into orange because of how strong this survival thing is. So all first tier is like, I'm going to do what I need to do because I need to survive. I'm going to do everything out of this survival drive because I feel like I need to do this in order to perpetuate the ego, perpetuate my sense of self. If I don't do this, then I will just perish. Stage yellow is finally overcome that fear, that core fear of surviving, and has realized, oh, I can survive. Now I'm focused on the magnificence of existence. Existence is beautiful. I'm going to get into this being mode. I'm not afraid of survival anymore. I'm not afraid of, and there's also this very interesting thing, fear. I've noticed when I regress into stage green versus when I embody stage yellow. Embodying stage yellow is, I guess this is a call about embodying stage green, but I think this will help us understanding stage green better. Embodying stage yellow is overcoming this fear that I will get sucked into someone else's belief system. I think that's what it is for me. When I'm in stage green or when I'm in first tier, when I'm operating from that mode, it's like I have this fear that I'm not fully comfortable in not judging other belief systems, because I feel that it's like this thing of putting up guards, right? You've been talking about this, putting up a guard. Because I haven't fully integrated into stage yellow, it's like I still have this guard of like, oh, if I'm too open, if I let down too many of my barriers, I'm just gonna fall into whatever like limited belief system they are, and I'm gonna become like a racist or something, or I'm gonna become an atheist again, and I'm gonna drop everything that I've learned. And I think yellow is more grounded in this feeling of I'm grounded. I trust myself enough. I understand that I see the value in all these belief systems enough that I can actually let down my guards and be completely open and non-judgmental of this person's perspective and not actually get trapped in it. Right. And so stage green still gets, and I think this is healthy versus unhealthy stage green. Unhealthy stage green is, I'm very afraid that I'm going to get trapped in your capitalistic, religious fundamentalist bullshit. So I fear that. So therefore I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to cancel you because I'm afraid. Like, why would someone cancel someone else? How it comes up for me is that I'm afraid of actually regressing. I think the core aspect of why someone would cancel someone else is because I'm afraid of regressing. Whereas if I wasn't afraid of regressing into whatever belief system they had, I wouldn't have the need to cancel anyone. But let's just sit with these questions, and then for the rest of the time, we'll just riff on them.
So I'm gonna just share one point before I sit with the questions.
Oh, perfect. Go ahead.
So I was also thinking about this, how like when you move, for instance, from blue to orange, you are like, you are in an individualistic state, and you have most probably you are rejecting the blue stage that is collectivist.
Right.
And I found out that orange people confuse green people with blue people. So because I was trying to communicate with some orange people, and what came up to my mind is that they think that I am blue.
Hmm.
So the same with the green. The green confuses yellow with orange
Right, right,
because
right.
they're both individualistic and they feel too similar. So when you start being pulled into yellow to develop, it feels like regression to green.
Yes, 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 yes.
So you run away from it.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good,
Yeah.
dude. I'm glad you brought that up. It's so real, dude, because dude, I've been noticing that happening so much. I start kind of putting out like yellow ideas into stage green communities, and they see it as like hearsay. They see it as like, oh my God, you're like, you're part of those shady capitalist greedy people, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you can have this is what it is too. Stage green, I think this is another really good point you brought up. What is healthy versus unhealthy green? Healthy green is not repressing rationality. Unhealthy green sees all rationality as bad. Stage green sees all rationality as bad. And it's so endemic in these spiritual communities and these very stage green communities that they see the mind as evil. Like using your mind, using rationality is evil. And whereas I feel like healthy stage green is, and what we talked about, why does it all comes full circle, man. We talked about putting up barriers when you grow, right?
Yeah.
So when someone grows from orange to green, they're putting up a barrier around rationality.
Yeah.
Whereas rationality is actually one of the valuable aspects of orange, right? And so it's like, oh, I'm scared of that old rational way of viewing the world. I'm scared of using my mind because that's what I did at stage orange, and it led to exploitation and manipulation and
Right.
this lack of inclusion, right? And so stage green, I feel like one of the shadow aspects, the unhealthy aspects of green is to not see that rationality isn't evil, but there was other aspects along with that stage orange rationality that we can transcend without actually saying that rationality itself is evil. And that's what you were talking about too, is because orange goes back into rationality. And I think actually, no, this is a really good point. How do we develop systems? And I'm kind of approaching this from stage yellow now, but this is something yellow would say. And I think it's very valuable. How do we develop systems to steward people from stage green into stage yellow? Well, what is the highest value thing that we can do to get people to evolve into stage yellow? One second. All right. So we were talking about how do we shift people from stage green to stage yellow through systems, or like what systems can we do to help people naturally emerge into stage yellow? What came up for me really, really strongly was the reason that it's so hard for people to move from stage green to stage yellow is because of this repressed rationality, right? So I think Wilbur calls this the repressed emergence. There's like this emergent repression. You can repress stage green. You can also repress stage yellow, or you can repress stage orange, but you can also repress stage yellow from stage green. And so it's like the repressed emergent, and it's like it's by providing ways of helping people understand that you can actually be in stage green and use rationality. It's like I think helping people naturally understand their own repressed aspect of rationality could be a way to steward people into stage yellow, right? Because all these people that I was talking to, it's like the way that they were speaking, it's like it's almost impossible for you to grow into stage yellow if you are repressing rationality this much. So we can just riff on that. Honestly, we can kind of just use the question. We can shift the questions in with the rest of the conversation, but yeah.
That's pretty important. And also like with the rest of the stages, because I was thinking this week about this, like how do I communicate to blue people or orange people in a way that helps them evolve,
Right.
like, and not creating this conflict or just this me versus you. So I'm also contemplating this.
Right.
How do I communicate in a friendly way to help each state evolve?
Honestly, this is more valuable than the questions. Let's just do riff on this, whatever. So I honestly don't know, and I've been contemplating the same question.
Yeah,
I've been contemplating
because
the same question.
I get socially, I socially get with a lot of blue and orange people,
Right.
and I end up just not expressing myself and really afraid of saying anything that is like out of the perspective of the
Right.
world. So yeah, I don't know. And when I say anything spontaneously, they like instantly reject it and
Really?
confuse it with something else.
Interesting. How it comes up for me is it's something we talked about in this call too. The fear of regressing into that stage. I think that for me, that has been the biggest block from meeting people where they're at. The stronger that fear is of regressing into their stage, the harder it is to actually connect with them, right? And so
but also maybe they're afraid of regressing, so that's why they're rejecting you. So for instance, if you are green communicating orange will confuse you with the blue, and he'll be afraid that if they listen to you, they will be regressing to blue.
Right. And so what it feels like to me is if you're speaking with someone that's super firmly rooted in blue, orange, or green, this is first tier. And one of the characteristics of first tier is they want everyone to go to their stage, right? They don't want to. And so I feel like in my experience, it's not fruitful at all to try to get them to understand the higher stage or even the previous stage to understand the value in it. It's almost like the only way to do it is to speak in their language, is to drop, if you're speaking with someone from stage orange, I feel like this is what it is. This is what I found most valuable. If you're speaking from stage orange, don't use any stage blue or stage green terminology whatsoever. Don't even if you're like, or stage yellow, like don't, I've taught in my experience, if I bring up systems, people give me glossy eyes. If I talk about, if it's a stage orange person that's firmly rooted in stage orange, this is actually something that's really good. I can actually start talking about stage green, but I can frame it in the limitations of orange. And so I was talking with someone a month or two ago while I was traveling. And this guy was big into the crypto space, right? And so he was big into, I was asking him, I mean, you just have to, it's like, what is the value of stage orange and how can I communicate to that person from the perspective of, I'm going to speak with you from a stage orange point of view, but I'm only going to highlight the values of it. And I'm not going to, when I'm speaking with you, I'm not going to agree with you when talking about the limitations of that. Like when you're like, when someone's at stage orange and they're like, yeah, I just want to do this to make a lot of money. And if I exploit this person in the process, like who gives a crap, you know? And it's like, when I'm speaking with them, I can actually speak with them from stage orange. But when they say that, I don't agree with them. I don't say, yeah, do it. It's like I say, you start asking questions to try to understand it and to try to, but there's one or two points I want to bring up. One is like, I've talked with a lot of stage orange people, but I start asking them, do you see money as the end all be all? What about human connection? I start poking in little things like that. And a lot of people will agree. They'll be like, yeah, you're right. It's like I was speaking with this guy that was firmly in stage orange, and he spoke about how I'm like, you're trying to make all this money, right? You're in the crypto space, you're trying to make all this money. And all right, I'm like, all right, so say you make your millions, what then? Just like questions like this, what then? What after you make all your millions in crypto, what's gonna happen after that? What is the point of making this money? And you know what this guy said?
Yeah.
The entire goal of this is so I can fly my dad out to travel with me, and I can share experiences with my dad or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, this guy was telling, it's almost like, what are you feeding? It's like, what are you feeding? What are you adding energy into? Are you adding energy into their manipulating, exploiting mindset around stage orange, or their achievement? It's like, you want to achieve stuff. What is the goal of that achievement? You just kind of like, why do you want to achieve that? What is the purpose of that achievement? And usually they'll be open to it. It doesn't sound like you're attacking them, right? I mean, it depends. It can sound like you're attacking them. Well, why are you trying to make versus like, yeah, money's a good thing. I'm curious what you want to accomplish with that money. What do you want to do in the world with that money? Something like that. And I feel like you could do that at every stage. Do you see money as the end all be all? Or you kind of lightly, compassionately throw out little breadcrumbs around do you think there's limitations though? Like, this is very good, but there could also be limitations, don't you think? Or like, or not? Like, why not? Tell me why not? You know, it's very, I feel like in my life, it's just, how can I approach it with the energy of, look, I'm not judging you, but you can't just say I'm not judging you. You have to actually come from that place, because if you say I'm not judging you, but you're subtly judging them, they're gonna know, right? So it's like, how can I actually embody the state of, I'm really not judging you. I just want to understand. Let's have a cool conversation. Let's have a conversation about who you are and what you believe and all this stuff. And sorry if there's a little background noise. And it's almost like there's this one other point too. It's almost like, do you feel like you're better than them or not? Because you can come from stage yellow and you can be like, I understand all of the value structures and I'm better than them. And I want them to evolve into the next stage that they don't see. That's still like, that's not a good place to come from, you know, and that's the place I've been coming from a lot. And I've been noticing there's a lot of traps in it. Like, am I actually approaching this as if I am from a higher stage of development and I'm trying to help them see it's like, all right, I can see that there's value in every stage, but if I see myself as higher, I'm kind of subtly undercutting that fact. So I'm curious what you think of, like, not actually coming from the place of like, yellow actually isn't better, but like yellow is not a better stage than stage orange. But because I'm embodied at yellow, all that means is that when I interact with this person, I'm just not going to play into the unhealthy aspects of that stage. I realize my stage isn't better, but I'm just going to be curious about positive aspects of their stage. I'm going to ask them questions, and I'm not going to have the need to try to have them see the world the way I see the world. Wherever they're at, that's okay. I'm just gonna meet them where they're at.
That happens quite naturally to me, because I see myself as a chameleon. So I don't have a certain personality. I just always listen, and like, I fabricate a new personality based on a person and on the environment around me. And that means that I don't initiate. I always wait people to talk. I always wait people to initiate. So I can tell where they are at and what they're going into, and I can respond to where they are.
Right.
But also that means, and this is like my nature, like, I'm not forcing this.
Right, right.
And that means like I'm quite vulnerable to conditioning. So, and that means I'm quite vulnerable to the unhealthy aspects even. Uh, so sometimes this resistance happens that like, let's initiate, let's push something, and it just backlashes on me. But yeah, I think maybe I'm just trying to stay as a chameleon, blending with people, with the environment, but it gets harder when there is more than one person around me because I get too distracted by all the energies around me.
Definitely harder in the collective.
Yeah.
Something I put in the chat too, which came up as you were speaking.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I meet them where they're at and not judge them? One
Yeah.
aspect of that is I also realize that where they're coming from is also within me as well. It's not separate from me, right? So it's like I have that stage blue. It's like realizing, and this is I think the point of these calls. This is what I wanted to accomplish with these calls is like is to see that whatever value there is at every stage is something that is actually operating within me right now. And if I can actually speak from that place of, all right, I'm speaking to a person that's largely coming from this stage, rather than trying to figure out how to evolve them into a higher stage and steward them into stage yellow eventually, it's like, no, where do I in my life actually, let's say take stage blue, where do I actually still value rules and discipline and regimented, structured, like whatever the value, like where do I still value this like rule following almost? Because it's like that has value in some context. Where do I value that right now in my life? And can I speak to that person about that? Can I speak to that person about right now? It's not like I was at stage blue 10 years ago and I'm going to try to remember what the good parts of it were. It's like, no, I've actually included the value of that right now. So right now, how am I operating from the same stage that they're operating at? How is part of my psyche still operating there? And how can I speak from that place? Maybe. I think I'm trying to think because I feel like it's easy to talk about this. I feel like it'd be very fruitful to have some sort of practice. Like, what if we could actually set up practice where we got on Zoom calls with people from each value structure and we practiced speaking to them from where they're at? That would be fun.
I think I don't know, but also like spiral dynamics is a yellow thing. And you need to be into this if you want to get into a discussion in spiral dynamics. So like getting a person from blue or orange, probably they will not understand anything.
Interesting. Yeah, it would be very interesting because if you say you're at this stage, I'm getting you in this call, and here's the model. You're actually 3 stages below me. That's not going to go over well. But it's like, it's like it's almost just like within our own lives, we have opportunities all the time. So noticing the opportunities and saying, how can I actually approach it that way? I've been, very interesting.
I do have an insight.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I also think that our nervous system in general is much smarter than our conscious persona, and it picks up on everything that we don't consciously notice. So the idea of me wanting to change you, fix you, or evolve you, it implies that I do not accept you as you are. And I think as acceptance is pivotal if you want to change anything. Like to me, I find acceptance as the first step in change. If you want to change anything in your life or in the world. So I find like this thing of trying to change, fix, evolve, or develop, it does the exact opposite of what you want. So if you want to really change something, maybe you've got just to drop this idea of fixing or changing. Just accept people as they are, and like, go ahead.
This is really good. And this is like I think this is a good place to kind of end it, or just to kind of like segue out, because it's like, this is stage green. Well, you just said that's stage green, right?
Yeah.
Healthy stage green. Healthy stage green is acceptance. Healthy
Yeah.
stage green is, I don't want you to be different than you are. I don't think that you need to be more successful. It's pushing back against stage orange. I no longer think that you need to be more successful than you are in order for me to accept you. I can actually accept you no matter how successful you are, no matter how big your self-esteem is, no matter how much you've mastered stage orange. And like stage orange is like, I will only accept you if you master stage orange. Stage green is like, I don't care if you master stage orange or not. I'm going to accept you either way. And so it's like healthy stage orange is like, or healthy stage green is like, you don't need to change. You don't need to change.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And that's
so hard to do that. I've noticed.
And by the way, this exact thing makes people change.
Right.
Like acceptance itself, yeah.
It's so counterproductive. And it's so hard to do this. It's so hard to operate in this way. Like in my life, I can cognitively see the value, but I notice emotionally, it's so hard to just, you're a fundamentalist religious person. And because from stage yellow, it's just as hard, because it's like, I understand that you're at this stage, but I'm still taking stage yellow as somehow better. And so I'm trying to develop you into stage yellow, but it's like, you're not actually integrated into stage green or stage yellow if you're approaching things that way. So it's like, I feel like it's just a practice, man. It's like you know how they say you learn by the how much experience, how much you're out in the world, how much experience is. Did it cut out a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was basically just saying.
I can't hear you.
You can't. Check 1 2 3. It says the audio. I'm seeing the audio go up and down on my end.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear the whole last part.
What's that?
I didn't hear the whole last part.
Oh, no worries. I can sum it up very easily. What it feels like right now is that to be healthy green and to allow ourselves to naturally emerge into yellow is like it's to continually practice accepting people, to make it into a life practice. Every time I'm in an interaction with someone, I actually notice when I want them to change. I notice when I want them. It's so funny because this is one of the unhealthy aspects of yellow too. One of the unhealthy aspects of yellow is I want you to change faster than you are. I want you to develop faster than you are. I see where you're at. I want you to develop, not accepting, right? So it's like making it into a practice. How can, with every person I interact with, how can I just make it into a practice of noticing when I want them to change or believe something else, noticing that arise in my body and just letting it pass away and then continuing to speak with them.
Yeah, and like how the nervous system picks on all the things we don't fit in, like judgment, unacceptance, etc., etc. For some period of time, I was thinking that I have social anxiety, and then I was thinking, if I have social anxiety, then I should be anxious socially with everybody, but I'm anxious only with certain people. You can't hear me? Yeah. So yeah, I'm not anxious with everybody. I'm only anxious with certain people. And the realization came that my nervous system doesn't feel safe around them. So I'm socially anxious with these people in particular, maybe because they're too judgmental or something. So my nervous system picks on that and gets anxious. So I think also this is an important practice to ask and feel how your nervous system feels around people, because you suddenly feel safe and open up around certain people, and maybe you clench and get anxious around some different people. So how people make you feel. Safety, like I find the word safety very important recent few months. Do I feel safe around this person? Do they make me feel safe or no? So that's it.
This is really good. This is really good because this is like one of the values of Stage Green is integrating different aspects of ourself, right?
Yeah.
And so how it comes up for me is it's actually a Stage Green process. Integrating Stage Green is diving into the emotional aspect and integrating different aspects of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like integrating Stage Green is like what you just said is a process, I feel like, of integrating Stage Green, even yellow a bit too, and into Stage Yellow. Integrating Stage Green and healthy Stage Green is like, because green is such an emotional stage. It's so grounded in emotions. So there's value in that too, right? And so what you just said is like, when I'm around other people, it's valuable to notice what emotions are arising, to work with them, to use them, to not let these emotions unconsciously control me and shape how I approach things, but actually to let these emotions help me understand myself on a deeper level and help me communicate and interact with other people in a more loving way.
And also like detoxing from all addiction is a very important thing in like integrating the healthy aspects of the green, because all addictions, they numb us emotionally and they separate us from all our emotions. So I can't really feel my emotions while I'm just addicted to various things, whether like substances or psychological things or practices, etc., etc. But mainly substances, because like at some point I was feeling like I cannot feel my body and my emotions because of so many addictions to sugar, to nicotine, uh, caffeine, different drugs, different substances, and all of that like separates you from your body and emotions. So yeah, I think going sober with life is a very important aspect. It's integrating the video.
Right. It feels like it's a continual process, man. At first I misunderstood you, but I think I understood it was just like all these substances numb us from actually feeling ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah. And it's like a big shift that I had recently is I was in a cycle of numbing myself. Like within the last 2 weeks, I found myself completely running away from emotions. And there was this core belief that I noticed within myself, which was I felt like I was regressing when the emotions felt overly negative. And I think that's like a core belief. I wonder if other people have that as well. I'm sure they do. But it's like the reason I was justifying numbing myself and avoiding my emotions was because I had this core belief that to feel these negative emotions is somehow regressing in some way, shape, or form. And so it's almost like, it almost feels like healthy Stage Green is realizing that progress is feeling emotions, is feeling this feeling that we're regressing. That is actually progress.
Yeah, 100%.
Feeling this feeling that we're regressing is progressing. Yeah. Running away from this feeling that we're actually regressing is a process of regressing. But no, this is really good stuff. This is the call supposed to end at 30 minutes after the hour. So do you want to continue? Are you interested in continuing?
Yeah, I'm down.
Sweet dude. So man, there's so much good stuff coming up. So much good stuff. You know what's super interesting too is I notice I think this is something to dive into, to reflect into, is there's so much I have so much resistance for these calls, you know. There's like the social anxiety thing of like speaking with multiple people, and that's why I was like, I enjoy speaking with one person because it's just so much easier. But it's like I have so much resistance to this, but literally every single time I do it, I feel freaking fantastic afterwards. Like this morning I was feeling a little bit sick. I was feeling a little bit like, it's like, like, should I just like cancel the call, you know, because I was actually like a lot of stomach problems from the food here. I'm in Guatemala right now. And I was like, no, I'll just do it. I'll just do it anyway, you know, I'll just do it anyway. And now I feel fucking fantastic. I feel so freaking good, dude. And it's like, and the ideas are flowing. And there's another aspect of like, one of the values of green is self-expression, right? Is to express oneself.
Right.
I'm noticing within this call, I'm expressing myself on a level that's more deep than anything I've done in the past 2 weeks, right? I've been trying to be creative, but it's like, now I am expressing myself, but what is the difference between being able to express myself now and not being able to get myself in this state of creativity? It's a very interesting thing. It's almost like there's so many limiting beliefs that stop us from just getting on a call, sitting down and writing, something like that. I don't know. I'm curious what you think.
I don't really have much thought about this, but in general, this thing triggers me a lot, especially with lower stages of development than I am, that I feel unable to express myself. Like I cannot fully express with myself with people who are, let's say, at orange or blue, because like my gravity is in green. So I have like to dump down so many voices in my head. And I don't know, like, this is too triggering to me, like being unable to express my individuality, my thoughts, what comes to my head spontaneously.
Right. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. It goes back to authenticity. Everyone's like, authenticity is super valuable, right? Just express yourself authentically in every situation. And it's like, well, if I do that, if someone's at a different value stage and I do that, it's not going to end well.
Exactly.
So what is authentic expression if I can't actually self-express around everyone, right? Because they're like, oh, well, you still care what they think. It's like, perhaps I care what they think, but perhaps I just notice that if I say this, it's going to get a very negative response. And so I don't want to, like, I'm going to express myself authentically, but I already know how negative of a response it is. And so why would I say it anyway? Like that doesn't feel less authentic. Not saying it doesn't feel less authentic, right? It's a very interesting thing.
It's socially intelligent.
Actually socially intelligent, yes.
Yeah.
So it's almost like how it comes up for me is perhaps expressing it fully, my authenticity, is noticing that in every situation there's an aspect of myself that is coming at the world from the way that they're coming at the world, than to try to express myself authentically from that aspect of myself. But also, I think it's just like a truth, not a truth, but it's almost like if you're gonna develop, you almost need to upgrade your friends.
Yeah, right.
Eventually,
100%.
right.
That what happened to me, like when I started to move from orange to green, and from blue to orange as well. Right.
It's like
I left all my friends.
right. It's like I don't judge you from where you're coming from, and I'll still hang out and have a good time. But the frequency to which I do this and how much time I actually spend with you, and speaking in whatever value system you're coming from, over time, I'm like, yeah, I'm not willing to spend that much time in these value systems. And I actually, over time, my friendships evolve, and I spend more and more time with people that see the world from as inclusive of a perspective as I do. And doesn't mean they're better. It just means that I have this drive to evolve, and I'm being held down by it. I am not actually fulfilling this drive when I'm spending all my time in groups that are at different stages of consciousness, right? And it's so hard to get across the scope of what I'm trying to get across, which is like, it doesn't mean I'm going to avoid all conversations with people from other stages. If it happens, if I just happen across someone at another stage, I'm gonna have a conversation with them. I'm not gonna judge them. I'm gonna try to meet them as best as I can from where they're at. But at the same time,
when
ahead.
you are friends, like I believe there is this kind of metaphysical bond, and like both of you are influencing each other energetically, even remotely. And I found in shamanism that there is this ritual of cutting, imagining bond between you and your ex-friend, let's say, or parent or whatever, and trying to imagine yourself cutting this bond so you stop being influenced by people energetically. And I had this conversation with a couple of people because it's a superiority complex thing to stay away from. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So some people viewed it as superiority complex to stay away from people who are less developed than I am. Right. But I was like, no, I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I accept you. I love you, but from a distance. And I'm not really interested. It's me and you being just around each other. Because I'm being influenced by the energy and the frequency. I'm being pulled down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's either like you ride with me or just I go alone.
Right. And how this comes up is, were you on the Stage Red call?
Yeah, sorry.
Were you on the Stage Red call?
No, I was not. Unfortunately.
What we talked about on that call, this is kind of what we talked about. We talked about how that's like healthy integration of Stage Red, is realizing that like healthy integration of Stage Red is like, I don't see you as any less valuable, but yet in order to create the type of change that I want to create in the world, I'm going to set a boundary with you, and I'm not going to speak with you anymore. But it's almost like that boundary is being in service of Stage Green values, right? So it's like I'm at this different value system right now, and in order to fully express the beauty and the fullness of this value system, I actually need to set boundaries with people at other value systems. And it's like I'm setting this boundary with you, not because I think you're wrong, but because I'm refusing to spend so much time in that.
Because I prioritize my own growth over anything else.
Right, exactly. It's like I'm prioritizing that, and I'm gonna choose to spend time with people that are more in that value system.
Yeah.
It's very interesting though, because I've noticed the Stage Yellow. Stage Yellow is almost like Stage Green is like, I just want to only spend time with people at this value system, right? And then Stage Yellow is like, I am going to choose to strategically spend time with other value systems in order to fully understand them, right? I think that's maybe the difference, is if you're strategically and intentionally spending time with people at that value system, or whether it's just, you've always been my friend, you're at this value system, so I'm just going to let you take up all my time and influence me in these ways that I don't want, versus like I've been following Daniel Schmachtenberger a lot, and he talks a lot about his social media feed, and how he will intentionally follow conservatives, religious fundamentalists. He will follow like hardcore liberals, moderate libertarians. He'll follow people that are into conspiracy theories. He'll follow people that are into that are super racist, like all these different things. Because it's like strategic, you know. By following all those different things, it's like I am strategically inserting myself in and out of all these different value systems, and I'm actually like I'm able to see the partial truths in every single one of these value systems strategically. Though I think that's the difference, because what you were talking about was like I am not intentionally wanting to spend as much time in this value system aggressive, and I'm just going to it's almost like if it's out of my own volition, if it's out of my own will or not, am I willfully spending time with this perspective or unwillfully?
Yeah. Because like, you know, like when I started moving from orange to green, to me, it was like, I'm not judging these behaviors, but like these friends, they enjoy alcoholism, weed, gossiping, judging, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
And I will keep commenting on such behaviors and be the annoying person. So
Interesting.
like that doesn't work. Like
Do you
the
think that's
frequency, yeah.
do you think you were doing that from a place of acceptance of them though, or do you think that it was actually still subtly this non-acceptance?
It was from a place of fear, because I was like, what they're doing is influencing me.
Right.
So if someone is just gossiping and lying and I agree with them, that means I'm just validating that, and that's just entering my field. So out of a place of fear, I was just rejecting that because I don't want it to influence me. So yeah, like that what happened with me. Like I didn't want to be influenced by such patterns of thought and behavior. So I was like very resisting to that.
Yeah,
I
no,
couldn't just ignore that.
That's really good. It feels very healthy to set a boundary in that context.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
That's annoying. Like if you are around someone who's blue, you're gonna set a lot of boundaries, and then you'll be like you're shutting them down. So
right.
what I find that it doesn't really work. So just don't wait for problems to come up. Just walk away from the beginning.
Right. That's a very good point. What I'm noticing as well is it feels like those people perhaps were at unhealthy aspects of those stages.
Yeah.
Perhaps they were at, whereas it can actually be very valuable, I've found, to find and interact with people that are at very healthy aspects of those stages, right? There's certain people, it's like complexity, you know? There's certain people that are strongly stage orange that approach the world with an extreme amount of intellectual rigor and complexity. Same with stage blue. There's some I imagine there's some very like rigorously people that have gone really deep into an understanding in a stage blue, right? And they're very integrated in that stage versus someone that's really unintegrated and they don't really care, and they're just gonna give you a couple of memes and a couple like core ideas of that stage, but there's no depth to it, you know? So it's like it's almost like, am I strategically finding people that have depth and integration of that stage and speaking with them, or am I just speaking with any old person that's not really going to help me go deeper into understanding where they're coming from? Good stuff, man.
Because like also like people are more like food to your body and your spirit,
right?
And they become you at some point. Like at some point you notice yourself starting to behave like your friends. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
But yeah, like I don't know about this, but let's say like we're friends, we're communicating, and you hear me like I keep lying, gossiping, and doing various forms of negative thoughts, behaviors. If you accept me, does this like means that you accept this in your whole being? Like you didn't find it.
back. I just was grabbing
Yeah, because like I had gossiping tendencies for so many years. And to me, accepting gossips around people means that I accept myself gossiping people. So I feel like sometimes we have to set boundaries when it comes to some behaviors. Like, I don't know, I'm not sure about this, but when something is about harm, because it happened to me that I was accepting people like gossiping others, and after a while, that happened to me, and I was like, maybe that happened to me because I accepted it happening in front of me in the first
Right.
place. So
Right.
what you accept happens to you. If you accept gossips, you will be gossiped. So
Right.
I think
Right.
sometimes, yeah, you have to say no or put a boundary or say like, I don't want to hear this.
Mm.
So yeah, like
This
this
is
thing
really
is a
good.
bit confusing.
This is really good. I think it's what is the idea of acceptance? Does acceptance mean accepting every single aspect of how they're approaching life? Or does it mean I accept you as a human being with inherent value?
Yeah,
It's like it's acceptance is not accepting their belief system.
yeah,
Acceptance
right.
isn't
Yeah,
saying
yeah, that's really good.
right. Acceptance isn't
Yeah,
saying how you're approaching the world is perfect.
yeah,
It's saying
yeah,
I am accepting that you have inherent value as a human being. And just because you're approaching the world this way doesn't mean
yeah,
you're any lesser of a person than I am.
yeah,
And I'm going to accept you and I'm going to speak with you. I'm not going to speak with you as from a higher or lower
yeah,
perspective. I'm going to speak with you eye to eye,
yeah,
but I'm also going to speak with you eye to eye and tell you that I don't want to hear your gossip anymore.
yeah. That's really good. It means like I don't necessarily accept your conditioning.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like
But also like people take it personal because like especially in a less developed stages, conditioning it's me like conditioning becomes time to your identity, to your very sense of I. So like any rejection to conditioning means rejection to people. This is like how they see it because they're too identified with their conditioning.
this
So
seems very
yeah,
complicated
yeah, like
to
it has to
truly
be acceptance to them, not to you.
right. I mean, at the same time, does it though? I'm really thinking hard about this. Like,
Yeah,
what is acceptance? What does it mean to approach someone from a point of view of acceptance? And if they
yeah,
don't see it as acceptance, is it still acceptance? Like
yeah,
perhaps I honestly don't think it has to do with their reaction, right?
yeah,
Because it's like, all right, let's say I'm fully coming at this from a place of non-hierarchy, right? Which is like stage green, right?
yeah,
So if I'm really coming at this from a place of I am not better than you, you are
yeah,
not better than me. We're both
mhm,
human beings. We both
yeah,
see each other eye to eye. If
mm,
I'm coming from that place and it triggers them,
yeah,
it still feels like acceptance, right? If I'm talking to them from this place, it doesn't really
yeah,
matter how they react because I'm coming from this place of acceptance. But as soon
yeah,
as I put them lower than me because they're
mhm,
getting triggered or because they're not accepting acceptance,
yeah,
that's when it's not acceptance, right? So it's almost like
yeah,
I'm saying something. Let's take an example. I'm saying something from a place of acceptance.
yeah,
And then they get triggered.
yeah,
And they get
mhm,
triggered and they get mad, right? Do I actually accept that too?
yeah,
Or do I it's like I'm accepting every single reaction that they have. So it's like I'm coming at this from a place of acceptance. We're speaking eye to eye.
mm,
Then they get triggered. It's like, okay, I see you. You're getting
yeah,
triggered. It's okay. I'm not judging you for getting triggered.
yeah,
That's a natural response, wherever it came up. And you identified with, I set a boundary around some sort of conditioning, that you had, you are identified with that conditioning, so it made you triggered. And now you're getting super mad at me. As soon as I take that anger and make you lower because of it, I feel like that's when the acceptance breaks, right? At least that's how it's coming up for me. If I can actually sit with their anger, and I can just speak with them and still see them eye to eye. You're getting angry. That's okay. I get angry too all the time. You know, I get triggered by things too all the time. Like it's just being human. Let's work with it, right? I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. And also like acceptance, I think, means accepting non-acceptance. So accepting a person who's not accepting the others as well.
Yes.
But also like I don't know, like this is something a bit unrelated to what we are talking about. But I've come from a place of codependency. So like I'm an empath. So as an empath, I have attracted narcissists along the years. And I did not realize that after it's like a couple of years. And I had like narcissists as a close friends and as flatmates and very close people to me. And I've come to that, it's like we're opposites, selfless and selfish. So we're like magnets to each other, we attract each other, and each one has something to teach to another. And I've come to this realization that with a narcissist, the approach of acceptance, forgiveness, peace, and love does not work because that makes them exploit you more. So you have to set the boundary and take yourself out of that.
I think there's something coming up here, which is setting a boundary is not the same as non-acceptance. Acceptance can mean setting boundaries. Acceptance can mean cutting someone out and saying, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to let you do this. Like, exactly. I think there's this idea in Sage Green, which is like that acceptance is not setting boundaries. It's this stupid idea of like acceptance in love means not setting boundaries. It's like, no, that's not what it is whatsoever. Right. And so it's like
but also I think like narcissism has something valuable to teach to senseless people or to people in green stage, because a narcissist is a person who lacks empathy, who sees their own perspective only. So they're delivering a message that you are the most important thing in the world from your own perspective, which the empath or the green person lacks, because the green person is feminine, he's vulnerable, he's selfless. So he considers everybody's perspective, but he doesn't consider his own perspective. So the narcissist comes to tell you, like, you have your own perspective. So prioritize your own perspective before you empathize with other people. So yeah, I feel like maybe this can bring us to more balance, because this also confuses me when it comes to development. Like, is my job to develop selflessness, to be like a pure selflessness, or to have a balance between selfishness and selflessness, where I prioritize my own needs, so I don't betray myself, and then I can be sensitive with other people.
Yeah, this is money, dude. This is money. So the acceptance. I'm going back. I'm gonna go back, and I'll get back to the point you just said.
Yeah.
Acceptance is acceptance of non-acceptance. That's and so what we talked about with cancel culture. What is cancel culture? Cancel culture is promoting acceptance but not accepting non-acceptance. Right? That's literally what cancel culture. That's literally what cancel culture is, right? And so it's like, so that was really good. I think that's a core value of green. What is healthy green? It's acceptance, including acceptance of non-acceptance, right? Oh, and then what you just said is also really good, which is if an unhealthy aspect of green is being overly empathetic to the
Yeah.
point where you're not grounded in selfishness,
Yeah.
right? So unhealthy green is not being able to step into selfishness
Mhm.
and say unhealthy green leads to exploitation, or leads to other people exploiting you, manipulating you, and
Yeah.
walking all over you, right?
Yeah,
So
being
what
a
is-
doormat.
yeah, being a doormat, exactly. So it's like what is a healthy aspect of green? Is like, I care for you, I see you as myself, and I truly accept you in all of your non-acceptance.
Yeah.
And even that, I'm going to meet you where you're at. But even that, if you start trying to exploit me, it's not gonna happen, dude. If I start noticing you beginning to exploit me, beginning to find ways to try to exploit this compassion,
Yeah.
well then I'm gonna say this has to end. No, like I see you, I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not gonna put up with this. Right? It's so weird because it's like, again, acceptance does not mean not setting boundaries. I think that's the
Yeah.
core insight, you know.
But
Acceptance
yeah,
does not mean
also
standing up for yourself.
like a relationship between an empath and a narcissist can be like real gold. It has so much lessons to teach.
Right, right.
So it's revealed so much of my unconsciousness.
It's almost like I've never liked the phrase everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But this is what I think. I think there's actually, if you frame it a different way, I resonate with it a lot. It's not that everything happens for a reason. It's that based on my psychological signature, based on how I'm approaching the world, I will get along with people that will best show me the lessons I need to learn. Right. So if I'm overly empathetic and I let people walk all over me,
Mhm.
well then I'm gonna get in relationships with people that are going to try to walk all over me.
Yeah.
Because I'm letting them do that, right? So that's gonna happen until I'm able to. So it happened for a reason, right? It happened because I needed to learn that lesson. It's not some mystical, it's not some like new age, not some new age. Everything happens in the universe for a reason. It's like, yeah, because you're approaching life with a certain perspective. You're creating everything in your life, right? You are your entire worldview is coloring how you see the world. And people are going to push up against that worldview and are going to teach you what you need to teach. And it's going to happen because it's going to be very intentional. Lessons you learn, what you experience, it's going to happen for a reason, because it's going to try to teach you the limits of your worldview.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So good. So good.
But also I think in a some sense, orange and green especially are stages for healing and recovery before you enter yellow, because it's not only about cognitive development, also because I was thinking about this idea of I have to be more selfish, I have to look at my own needs.
Right.
But the problem is, it's not that I can see my own needs and I'm ignoring them. The problem is that I can't see my own needs in the first place.
Right,
It's
right.
embedded in my nervous system, and I need to practice, like I need to heal. I need to like meditate, do yoga, do acupuncture, do whatever you want, but like I have to release this emotionally from my nervous system so I can feel my needs all over again.
Right, right.
Because this is rooted in childhood, in our sense of safety. It's how like, let's say your caregiver comes to slap you and your nervous system understands that I have to hear people's needs in order to be safe.
Right,
So
right.
it like detaches from your own self, from your own needs, and starts being sensitive to everybody else.
Right. I
And
think
this word, yeah,
what's coming up for me is the shift from red to blue and the shift from orange to green is similar, because it's like I'm shifting from individual to I need the collective in order to feel safe. So it's almost like what is so common to have unhealthy aspects of this stage are mob mentality and not being a healthy individual within the collective, but letting the collective take over your entire psyche and identity, right? So it's like, it's almost like to be healthy at this stage or any other stage for that matter is, getting at that safety thing. What is that safety thing? Why don't I feel safe? Why do I need? And it's so interesting. Yeah, it's like what are my needs? I don't know what my needs are, and I think it's just a process of like self-reflection maybe, or just like constantly trying to become aware of why did I do that. It's almost like journaling too can help you make you aware of your needs. Like you journal like, why did I act that way? What was I trying to achieve in that situation? That it's like, oh well, you were trying to get love from that other person because you have a lack of love. You were trying to get safety from that group. You conformed. You didn't set boundaries with that group because because perhaps I didn't feel safe and I need safety of the group. So I didn't put forth my own needs, right? And so it's almost like it's super. I've always had this like nice guy personality, like this people pleasing personality. I'm realizing more and more these days that it's because I don't feel safe. It's because I'm like, I need you to like me in order to, I need to get something from you. I need to get you to like me somehow. Right. And it's like, well, what if I just met that need by myself without other people? Or it's almost like, it's really interesting because it's like, I've been thinking about this a lot. What are my needs? And what is an authentic need versus an egoic need, right? So it's like oh, I have this desire to go home and watch a bunch of Netflix or something when you're out hanging out with people. Is that an authentic need, or is that just I'm deeply uncomfortable and I want pleasure and I want to avoid this emotion, so I'm just gonna so it feels like it's a need, but really it's just an egoic desire versus on the other hand it's something similar, which is like recently I've been feeling the need for solitude. I need time alone. Everyone is asking me to go out and do things and to go hike and to go out and have drinks and all this stuff, and it's like, no, there's this authentic need that I have right now to spend time alone because I'm spending all my time externally. I need to spend time alone. That feels like an authentic need. And if someone asked me to do something, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to, because I need to, like, and it's hard to be honest in that situation. Well, why don't you want to hang out with me? Because I need to spend time alone. And then it's hard for that person not to take that personally. It's hard for people to understand that sometimes, which is like, oh, you just don't want to hang out with me, but you're just telling me that you need to spend time alone. It's like, no, I really actually just need to spend time alone, and we'll hang out when I meet this need.
It's really hard for me to say no to anything.
Right. It's so hard, man. It's so hard. Because it feels like you're rejecting that person. It feels like if I say no, I'm actually like rejecting them somehow. And it's like, no, I'm actually saying no, but I'm not rejecting you. And it's like, it's almost like to the point where I'm saying no, I'm not rejecting them. But if they take it that way, and I have to live with that because if they don't want to be friends with me because they think I'm rejecting them, and it is what it is, and they don't understand my needs, and that's okay. So hard though. It's so hard, man.
But yeah, I've been also thinking about like actual practices, like going to do something like acupuncture or acupressure or yoga or whatever, something that physically releases emotions, tension, and different stuff from your own body. Because I believe that they're stored in your organs, in your body, like your nervous system stores them in various places in your body.
Right.
I've seen, if you know Mantak Chia.
What is it called?
Mantak Chia. Mantak Chia, he's a Taoist master.
Oh, I've never heard of him.
He's mostly talking about sexual energy and teaching about sexual energy. But he was also talking about how each organ in a body stores a certain emotion. So for instance, fear is being stored in the kidney. Hate, love, and resentment are being stored in the heart,
Right.
and so on and so on and so on. So doing certain practices to like move the emotions out of your body. It can be maybe a massage, like a deep tissue massage or something.
Yeah, this is really
So
good.
yeah, because I think like we have to go also physical with the things. Like the world values the cognitive intelligence most, while like I feel like nobody looks at other types of intelligences. If you're born physically intelligent or emotionally intelligent, nobody would just give you attention or care about this. People care only if you have a high cognitive intelligence.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, so yeah,
Feels
just yeah, trying like these different, like working with different types of intelligences.
right. Yeah, it feels like something very tricky, which is because we live, at least where I grew up in the US, strongly stage orange. Like the center of gravity of the US is at stage orange, and the family that I was in was largely stage green. And so there's this idea that because cognitive intelligence is so promoted in our society, and there's other types of intelligence like emotional intelligence too, I think this is where people realize this and then they repress the mind and rationality. You know, when they say green represses rationality, a lot of times it comes from what you just said. I'm not saying you do. I don't think you do at all. But I think when people realize that a lot of our intelligence is cognitive intelligence, but there's actually other types of intelligence too, right? And, but it's like, yes, but that doesn't mean cognitive intelligence is bad, right? So there's like a jump there that people tend to make. And it's like, there's other types of intelligence. We need to integrate those without throwing out cognitive intelligence, right?
Right.
Right. And so many people throw out cognitive intelligence. Literally, I would say the majority of my friends are center of gravity and stage green. And I would say 75% or more of them throw out cognitive intelligence. like if I was hanging out with a bunch of stage orange people, it would be purely cognitive intelligence, right? But I've kind of shifted my friend group to more stage green values, and it's so common that people just throw out the whole cognitive aspect of life. It's like, and I think this is where you go from green into yellow. Is like green into yellow is like, yes, the emotional is valuable. Yes, orange can exploit people. Yes, the mind can be used for these means, but there's still value in cognitive intelligence. There's still value in rationality too. Yeah. And so where are we going from this? There was a couple of points we could jump off of.
Yeah, anyway, like I've been also noticing how there's this tendency to talk philosophy, like without embodying what you're talking about. So like I've witnessed myself and so many other people, like we're always talking about spirituality and non-duality and all this stuff. Meanwhile, like if you look at our daily life, like it's a purely junkie. Like like each one's spending their life like smoking and eating junk food, not practicing anything or meditating, like purely toxic lifestyle. But when it comes to philosophy, like we keep talking about spirituality and stuff. So I get like really annoyed at this, and I'm starting to take some radical moves,
Right.
like changing practices and changing behaviors.
Right. It's very interesting because I noticed this in my life a lot.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I started taking radical moves, and I still don't feel like I'm very embodied or fully embodied. I feel like there's still a long way to go. But when I started making radical moves is when the spiritual ego developed, is when the superiority complex develops hardcore. So I think there's a challenge in how can I notice this, do the work, and not develop a spiritual superiority complex. I think that's actually a very challenging thing to do, because I've noticed as well that all right, if I'm spending time around people that are just eating junk food and smoking and living this toxic lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
It can seem like that's reality. It can
I
seem like
myself
that's,
used to do
yeah,
this a lot.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So, but when we're in that like reality tunnel, it
Yeah.
seems like that's how everyone lives. But then, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it's easy to develop the spiritual superiority complex, because then compared to that reality tunnel, compared to that way of living, it feels like we're so far ahead. You know, we developed all these practices, all these habits. We're meditating, we're eating healthy, all this stuff. But it's like, no, but there's actually other people that you haven't met that are in a completely different reality tunnel that are actually extremely embodied, that are doing the work every single day, right? So it's like just because in comparison to this old reality tunnel, I'm doing so much better. I think not developing the superiority complex is like knowing that there's actually other reality tunnels as well, where people are actually very embodied in. So I'm actually in the middle of these two or something like that.
I don't know, like, and sometimes the superiority complex like comes from people thinking that you are being superior in them, and because you're too sensitive, you pick up on that, and you start thinking that you are superior. I don't know, like, it's kind of complex, but also like you might be picking on how people view you. So people might be viewing you as superior for some reason, while you're not being superior. You're already aware of that.
Right.
But you're too sensitive and codependent. You can't think on how people think about you.
Right. I think
But,
that's,
you know, like you are a people, you used to be a people pleaser, and people pleasing, it's a form of like you're controlling the perception of other people, and you can easily read how people can view you, so you adapt to manipulate how they perceive you.
right.
So
It's not my true self. I still am in that reality quite a bit, actually, because I'm not fully understanding what's actually going on that's causing me to do it. But I think it's very interesting, like developing social confidence without ego. I think that's actually very rare and hard to do, because everyone I see that develops social confidence, whether or not they have a superiority complex, other people will start seeing them as superior because they're developing confidence in themselves enough to be confident in social situations, right? And so it's like I have met almost no one that is able to develop that level of confidence without the superiority complex, because it's like they almost go hand in hand. And yeah, it's very interesting. There was one other point too. Give me a sec.
I think we haven't talked about food. I think food plays a major role in this, because like food is also energy,
Right.
and how like certain food can be masculine or feminine. And okay, there's this Ayurvedic system of eating food, Ayurveda, you know it.
Right. Yeah. Saying some spice, some like if you have a certain energetic
Yeah,
structure, you need
yeah.
spicy foods or not spicy
Yeah.
foods, or hot foods or cold foods. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and you actually have to balance your energies. Like maybe if if I do have superiority complex, maybe that means I do have an excess in masculine energy, because like what I observe is that people who struggle from inferiority complex are usually more feminine, and people who are more superior are usually more masculine. So it might be like a characteristic of energy, and you have to
Right.
balance the energy to deal with that. For
Totally.
instance,
Totally.
foods like garlic, onion, and pepper are masculine, for instance.
Really,
Foods
they're
like,
masculine.
yeah.
That's like all I
Like,
eat.
yeah. But like food like yogurt, maybe carrots, I'm not sure what else, are feminine. So maybe you witness like what is your energy? Like if you're more masculine, you include more feminine food into your diet. So like you work energetically in balancing yourself. And once
Right.
you change energetically, everything will change. like all your other aspects will change. Your mental, physical, and emotional aspect.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. I haven't heard that approach before. I've heard a couple of people talk about Ayurveda, but I haven't thought about using that in approach to the masculine feminine thing.
Yeah.
There's something that came up too around people can really sense when you are coming from superiority, and I think there's two responses to it. That's what I'm noticing. I think there's two responses to it. I read something in this book called Letting Go by David Hawkins, where he talks about if you're coming from this energy of pride, it's going to trigger people a lot, because if you're coming from this energy of pride, then it's like people sense that and they're like, oh, you think you're better than me. It's almost everyone I feel like is going to get triggered if it's like, oh, you think you're better than me by saying this? Like you have a lot of pride in what you're saying. And it's like, it's not a warm energy. It's not easy to connect with people when we're coming from this energy of pride. But I also notice the crazy dynamic, which we were talking about, is, but some people will see you as superior. So if you're coming, this is the hard thing. If you're coming at it from a place of pride, some people will get really triggered if they're actually like grounded in themselves a bit, you know. But if some people, but I've noticed this is where the exploitation happens. If someone's in this people pleaser mode, this is what's happened to me when I'm interacting with people with a lot of pride. If someone's in this people pleaser mode, or they just don't feel like they're good enough, then they can see that pride and they can put on a pedestal, and then the person feels that energy. They're like, oh, they can feel that, oh, I'm coming at this from pride, and you actually are buying into it. You're actually putting me on a pedestal because I'm coming from this place of pride. And it's like, that's when so like, if you come from this place of pride, it's like, either you're going to easily be able to manipulate people, or people are going to get super triggered by you. So those are two responses that I don't want to have in a social situation. I don't want people to feel like they're lesser than me because I have pride. So it's like, I think pride, it depends how you use the word pride, because perhaps there's healthy pride and unhealthy pride. But I think it's something about, I'm grounded in myself. I know I have value from what I say, but I don't think I'm better than you because I have this value. And if you're not grounded in that value, it doesn't mean you're worse than me. Something like that. I think that's a common theme, though, that we've been talking about. That you can set boundaries, you can be accepting, and all this stuff.
But also like there is this thing of gaslighting, like this tendency to always gaslight yourself. Like, I don't know, man. I think this is also a very common thing in dream stage, because it's a feminine, vulnerable, and a selfless stage.
That's very interesting. So by gaslighting is making another person think that their reality is wrong and yours is right.
Yeah, and also
they're like in an illusion, and so you're saying you can gaslight yourself.
Yes, and you also gaslight yourself. You can't trust your own judgment. It's like if you put second guessing and self-righteousness on the same spectrum, like you're always second guessing yourself. So I'm like, my mind is always coming up with accurate judgments, and I second guess myself, and I gaslight myself. And then I realize, like, wait, I was right. And sometimes, like, I follow my mind and say, yeah, I'm right, and it turns down. So I don't know, like, it's confusing. But maybe this comes from our disconnection to our guts, because like what's true comes from the guts. Like, if you get in a state where you are highly sensitive energetically, and you get an intuitive thought or hunch, you will feel like your guts clench before you get the thought. But we're very disconnected from our bodies, so we don't feel this clench in the guts. So like 100%. The egoic mind and the gut feeling sound the same to you. Like they're both just sounds, because you can't feel the guts. So I don't know, I feel like the solution to this is going back to our bodies, to our physical bodies, being grounded in a physical body, feeling our guts, our bodies more, because like we have a tendency, especially men, to spend most of the time in our minds.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I think this is another we can bring this back to the stages of consciousness model, which is one of the values of stage green is intuition, right? And so it's like getting grounded in an intuition. What do I intuitively feel in this scenario? But a lot of times I feel like what you just said is the case. So there's this everyone says intuition is all great, right? But I've actually met a lot of people who are in the state where they promote intuition, or I feel like this could happen a lot. You promote intuition, but you still gaslight yourself because you don't trust it. So it's like I have this gut feeling. All right, first step is get in touch with the body. Once I get in touch with the body and I understand what it's saying, second step is realizing that by making a decision that is perhaps coming from stage red, such as setting a boundary, or such as saying no, or such as being a little bit more forceful, not letting people kind of just throw all of their stuff onto you, but being a little bit more like, no, stop, it's not happening. That actually can be in service of acceptance. That actually can be in service of stage green values, right? That's it's really powerful. And so it's very interesting because I noticed that in myself a lot. As you said that, I realized how true that was, how true that felt, which was my entire life, most of my entire life, I haven't trusted what's coming up, my judgments of certain situations because of, I don't know, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth or something like that. And so I haven't been integrated into this stage red, able to like set boundaries, say things, and to be a little bit more, to push up against other people a little bit more, because I think one of the unhealthy aspects of stage green is if you're too open, then everyone's like, oh, free, I could just take whatever I want from you, I can just walk over you, right? And so it's almost like a way to integrate into this stage healthily is to notice when you're gaslighting yourself, and to notice that is unhealthy, right? It's to notice like, because I've done that, I feel like almost my whole life. It's like someone will say something, but they'll be coming from a place of much more confidence than I am. So it just causes, then I'll just be like, oh, they're so confident in it. Maybe mine's wrong. And I guess that's what you would brought up as being like gaslighting yourself. But it's like, oh, it's like this core confidence thing, man. It's like, if I'm not confident in what I have to say, then I'm always going to doubt myself in the presence of someone that is more confident. It's so interesting. So
we have a lot in common.
Right. I think we do. So for you, what does it look like to not let that happen? You're in the presence of someone that's very confident in themselves. What does it look like for you to not distrust yourself in that situation? You know?
I don't know, man. Like I've been struggling with this the recent few years, and I've been exploited so many times.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
When that happens, man.
Because
it makes you feel like it's your fault, and that you're it's such a weird spiral, because it's like you get exploited, then you feel worse about yourself, which makes it easier for you to get exploited again, which makes it easier for you to feel worse about yourself. So it's like, how do we go the other direction, you know?
Yeah, because like I reacted for some time, and I took like I was like, this is happening to me because I'm being kind with people and selfless. No, like I have to bring out the toxic person in me. And I started like being toxic and bully for a couple of months until I realized like, no, like this is not good. So I went back to where I am. So, so I'm not really sure, but I feel like this has to do with the nervous system, with actual release of energies from my nervous system. So I'm trying to integrate practices into my daily routine, along with all the cognitive and emotional stuff that I'm doing. But I also struggle like with the self-esteem, with the confidence, with all that stuff, and it's influencing my financial life as well. So I think this also has to do maybe with the orange and red stages. Feel like I haven't integrated them very well.
Right, right. And it's so,
yeah.
it's so
Also,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, but something else. Sometimes I feel like I have a problem trusting my own judgment. But I feel like I don't have to deal with this directly. Maybe like I forget about it and I go to deal with another problem, and like life will get me back to it. Maybe I have to deal with some other things before I deal with this.
Mm,
So when I just identify something, doesn't mean that I'm ready to deal with it right now. So I feel like leave it to time and deal
right,
with whatever you can deal with right now.
right.
Uh, I'm not sure what else.
No, that's
Yeah,
right.
like I still struggle with this till this very moment, but basically my approach is that I'm going more introvert and I'm spending more time with myself.
Right.
Uh, so I guess that would make me more able to listen to myself.
Mm, yeah. There's definitely a self-reflection component to it.
Yeah,
Something that came up really good that I wanted to ask you.
yeah.
Totally forgot it. And I was like, this is such a good question to build off. Tim. Well, one thing that came up too was how do you, oh yeah, yeah. Do you, that's what it is. That's what it is. I got it. Do you feel like you are, this is what I noticed in myself. Do you feel like it's super hard to step up into that, not judging your own perspective, sharing your own perspective, knowing your perspective has value, and really, really just like developing that core self-confidence and that core like stage red, healthy stage red, right? And healthy stage orange. Do you think that's so
Yeah.
hard because you see everyone that's in the unhealthy aspects of that stage? So you feel that if you start moving in that direction, it feels like you're automatically just going to become narcissistic or something?
Uh,
That's how it comes up for me. I think that's one of the reasons I'm blocked.
yeah.
Because I feel like I'll just become like the narcissist person
Actually,
that I judge, you know, if I move in that direction, right?
Right. Yeah. Because like if you judge the narcissist, you're afraid of being the narcissist yourself.
Right,
So
right,
you're afraid of being selfish. You're afraid of saying no. You're afraid of not helping.
right. And so if you move in that direction, it's like, oh, I'm becoming that which I see as flawed.
Yeah, because I have become a narcissist, but only with narcissists. So it's like I'm
Interesting.
empath with everybody, but with narcissists, I am a narcissist because that's the only way to protect myself.
Wow.
Because if I keep being an empath with them, they will keep exploiting me.
Right, but
So
do you think
yeah,
that there's a healthy way of not letting them exploit you without being a narcissist?
I'm not sure actually.
I
Like
think
maybe
I think it's possible, but I don't know what it looks like. And it feels
maybe
feels like
there
it's
is, but like oh, I'm not really sure. But also like
interesting.
all the psychologists who are talking about this relationship dynamic of empaths and narcissists, like all of them are saying just stay away.
Stay away. Just
Don't deal with them. Don't try to fix them. Just stay away.
right, right. I mean,
So I don't know,
it
like
feels like a healthy response
yeah, like
because it's
I
like
tried so much this approach of being forgiving and selfless and empathetic, and like I get exploited every time. So I don't
right,
think
right,
it's
right.
functional. I don't think it's a functional approach.
That's it. That's it. This is what we talked about earlier. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
Is if you notice yourself getting exploited by narcissists, then it's not an act of non-acceptance to not hang out with them, right?
yeah,
It's like, I see you, I understand that you're wounded and that you
yeah,
develop narcissistic tendencies. And I'm not saying that you're wrong or worse
yeah,
by saying that I'm not going to spend time with you. I'm just
yeah,
saying that I think this is the healthy red too. It's like I'm choosing not from a place of non-acceptance, but actually from a place of acceptance. And also from a place of putting my needs before your needs, right?
But it's also so much hard because they don't realize this, and they will launch a campaign on you.
They will wait,
So
say it again.
It's also much harder in reality because they will not realize this, and they will launch a campaign on you and will try to harm you.
Right. And they'll make you feel
in various ways, especially socially.
Right. They'll make you feel really bad about yourself. They'll try to put you down. It's almost like you need to have a deep enough understanding yourself in order to notice what's going on. And if you notice what's going on, it's like they don't understand what place I'm coming from. That's okay. Now they're getting triggered and they're launching this campaign against me. That's also okay. And they're trying to make me feel bad about myself, but I'm not going to, because I understand where it's coming from and what's driving them to do that.
But also, like their harm they can harm you socially, which harms your professional life, which activates your reptilian brain that's responsible on survival.
Right.
So it becomes a matter of survival to your nervous system.
So interesting.
Because like your reputation, it has so much to do with your primal brain, with your basic brain, because it has so much to do with survival. So let's say if I am trying to harm Ethan socially or gossip Ethan, I'm like directly trying to attack your reptilian brain or primal brain, because I'm attacking, like I'm lowering your rate of survival.
Right. It's so interesting. I think I don't think anyone is beyond survival. I think everyone is going to get, their reptilian brain is going to get triggered at some point, right? And so it's almost like it's almost like how do you approach that? I'm not sure. It's a very interesting dynamic happening, right? And it's like, I don't know how to approach that, and I feel like it's almost like
just my approach is that I just shut down.
Shut down, yeah. Shut down. I feel like the what you're talking about, the nervous system stuff, practices to because it's like, all right, you're gonna get triggered, you're gonna go into survival mode, but perhaps there are practices. I've been actually experimenting a lot with this one called trauma release exercises. So there's like, it's basically TRE.
I tried some of them last week.
I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 weeks now, once a week. And I'm trying to just create a long-term practice out of it to see if it works. And I don't know if it works or not, or I have yet to judge that for myself, but it seems like it does. Like, like you do the technique, and then your legs are just like shaking and like letting out the energetic gunk that doesn't need to be there. But I feel like also, feels like there's so many other ways to do that as well. Like even just like basic stuff, honestly. Like I've even heard like exercise. If you exercise, it's like actually like resetting your nervous system in a way. I guess acupuncture is one that you said. And then,
the vagus nerve, like the exercises for the vagus nerve.
Right. The vagus nerve stuff. And then it's like, there's like somatic experiencing is one that I came across. And I think there's one of my friends is saying yoga. Just doing yoga is like, you can do yoga to like reset the energetics of different parts of your body, based on what asanas you do. And then there's a lot, but I feel like that could be a really great start. It's like, if I'm getting triggered and going to insert into survival mode in these situations, perhaps it's time to find ways to understand why I'm getting triggered and to release that energetic incompletion.
Actually, also breath work helps a lot.
Breath work. That's really good too. Totally.
So but like mainly like integrating practices, but also like, because like back to the idea that like of detox, because I'm detoxing of various stimulating substances. like my body starts to feel like I need to distract myself with food. Then I realize that like, no, like this is also not good because like we're addicted in food. We eat a lot just for distraction. So I started to feel like instead of distracting myself with substances and food, I can distract myself with breathing, for instance, walking, doing some exercise.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
I've
so
noticed that too.
yeah,
Sorry,
like
keep going.
having no stimulative substances in your life would be a good catalyst for having exercises and doing various natural things.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I want to stimulate my brain, let's do like 10 minutes breath work or
Mhm.
whatever.
And it's so hard because that's the last thing you want to do in that situation, right? And
Yeah.
I've noticed that myself. It's almost like you need to have it pre-planned out. You need to have your list pre-planned out for when that happens, what to do.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, if you're in the moment, there's no way you're gonna be like, time to do breath work, time to go for a walk, right? And so for me, like this happened to me yesterday. I was doing
Yeah.
work. I did about like an hour of work maybe.
Yeah.
Then I got like my chest got really tense, I was getting really a lot of tension in my body, and it was just like I just felt stressed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I try to like push through it. That never works. And I'm like, all right, it's getting worse. And then I'm like, why I can't get work done, I just need to push it. It's like trying to figure out what actually is a way to actually like counteract that, going for a walk, doing breath work, doing something. And it's almost like we need to have those practices, and we need to like experiment with them to find one that actually does something, that actually gets rid of the tension, the stress, whatever. And it's like we know it, and it's deep down.
Yeah.
And then every time we feel it, it's like, God, I really want to run away from this. I really want like to eat some food. I really want to
Yeah, actually, like when you feel it, it feels like you're trapped eternally in that
right.
emotion.
It
Yeah.
feels like it's forever. You don't ever feel like it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Crazy.
I think the cycle for emotions is 90 seconds. So I'm applying this like whenever I feel any intense emotion, I just wait for 1 minute and a half or 2 minutes before I react.
Right. But it's like 90 seconds if you are to sit with it and
Yeah.
let it pass through you. But if
Yeah.
you don't, and you try to distract yourself from it, then it's like hours.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels like eternity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, dude. I think I'm gonna end the recording at this point.